I am not by no means an expert in this area, but I have had some experience making or doing virtual conferences. Um, because I also part of my job is to advise student leadership programs, and a lot of the experience is virtual, even more so now that COVID has happened. So let's see if this will. Okay, so I know Jen just did this, but I do want to take a second to acknowledge the host team. Y'all, this is not the conference that they bid for at all. Jen, like Jen said, she wanted to have you all in Aggieland. If you haven't been to Texas A&M University in College Station, it is fantastic. It is so pretty. I love it there, and so if you ever get the chance, you should stop by. The campus is gorgeous. The people are nice. But I just want to take a second to acknowledge them because they are taking a conference that was supposed to be over a weekend for 2 or 3 days and making it all online over about 8 weeks. So if we can give them some virtual snaps, some hand claps or whatever you want to give them, I definitely want to acknowledge their hard work that they are putting into making this in-person experience into a virtual experience. Okay. All right, so Jen, let's do the first poll. So we're just gonna put a poll on the screen, and you all can answer if you want. I just want to see how everybody's doing because I know this has probably been a bit of a week for everyone. I know it's been a week for me. So I just kind of want to check in and acknowledge that the struggle may be real for a lot of people right now. So let's see. Okay, so it looks like most people have voted by now, but the majority of you are doing good, which is great to hear. I'm glad that most of you are doing well. But then we also have a few people who are on our mat, and it's a semester over yet. I probably would vote that one if I were to vote in the poll. Is the semester over yet? I am tired. I'm sure you all, as student staff, are exhausted as probably even more so than I am because I don't live in the halls anymore. So you all live with the students 24/7. And so, yeah, okay. So definitely want to acknowledge that, that we have some feelings all across the board today. But hopefully, the session can re-energize you a bit. And hopefully you'll have a good weekend and you can focus a little bit on self-care. Thank you, Jen. All right. So let's start by getting to know me a little bit. I always like to know a little bit about my presenter before they start talking to me, just kind of know their background, where they come from, which kind of gives me I almost like, okay, so why are they talking to me? So just some random things about me. I'll acknowledge the picture first because that's probably what you're looking at instead of the words. Yeah, I see Jen shaking her head. So in the picture is my dog Charlie. He will not be making an appearance today because he would be just all over me right now, and we would never get anything done, which some of you might be okay with. But he is 4 years old. He just turned 4 in September. September 13th is his birthday. He is an Australian Shepherd Poodle, or Aussie Doodle for short. I named him after the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, one of my favorite movies. And so his name is Charlie after the character Charlie. And then after Gene Wilder, his middle name is Wilder. So Charlie Wilder is his name. But he's a sweet dog. He's very photogenic, as you can see. I think I took that this summer when I was working from home. And that's literally what he would do, is stare at me all day, especially if I was on a call. But yeah, that's Charlie. And then, as I said already, I work at OSU. I've lived in 5 different states. All of them are mostly job related. So I'm originally from Arkansas, born and raised there. I did my undergrad at Arkansas Tech University. Then I was at Missouri for my graduate program, so the University of Central Missouri. So that's where I did my graduate work at. But then I've also lived in Texas, Georgia, and now Oklahoma. Is where I've also worked professionally. I love to travel, but COVID's really cramping my style right now. So I mean, but on the plus side, I am saving money, so I'm winning in that way. I have a very unhealthy relationship with Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon Prime, a streaming service, you name it. I have an unhealthy relationship with it. And so does my debit card. So I absolutely love brunching. I feel like I'm in an official brunch club amongst my friends. So once a month, we at least brunch. So that is something that I look forward to each month. Since it's November, and since we celebrate, we're going to be doing Friendsgiving instead of brunch, but every month we definitely do brunch. I work out, so like I've been up since 5:15 this morning. I went to bed at midnight and got up at 5, so I took a 5-hour nap there. But I'm up at 5:15 every morning. I go to the gym. I do F45, which is high intensity training. Um, yeah, I felt like I almost died this morning in class, but we're here. We're still here. And then last but not least, I love hanging out with my friends. Of course, physical distance, can't catch Miss Rona. All right. So let's talk a little bit about my history with SWACUHO. So my history with SWACUHO started out just like yours right now. I started out in 2010, actually over the weekend of October 8th and 9th, 2010. I attended my very first SWACUHO conference, which was SWACUHO RA, hosted at Oklahoma State University. Talk about a small world. Back in 2010, if you told me I was going to be working at Oklahoma State, I would be like, you're crazy. I'm never moving to Oklahoma, but here we are. So the pictures on the screen on the far left, you can see we're in the van on the way to Oklahoma. And then on the far right, that is the banquet. I believe the thing was like Western or Cowboy or something. I swear we don't have any original themes here at Oklahoma State. We always do Western or Cowboy, like everything. And in the middle is our banner that we had to hand paint for Arkansas Tech. So that was back in my day. Yes, I know I'm old now, but no, Loki, I'm just really 30. But the banner we had to hand paint, but if this would have been in person, the banners would have been digital. But I kind of miss the hand painted banners. But anyway, so I started off I was an RA for 3 years at Arkansas Tech University. I worked in 3 different styles, 2 of our suite style halls and 1 of our apartment complexes. And I attended, during that time, I attended SWACUHO RA once. And that was not the end of my career with SWACUHO. I have since attended most of the SWACUHO professional conferences. I also am one of the committee chairs for SWACUHO, so I oversee the placement services one, which basically is helping people to find jobs, reviewing resumes, interviews, linking them, and making networking and connections and things like that. So everything to do with job placement is what I do right now with SWACUHO. Yeah. All right, so I always like to start off any presentation with a quote. I'm a bit quotes person, but this quote says, "When fishermen cannot go to the sea, they repair nets." I thought this quote was very fitting for the time that we're in right now. I know some of you this may be your second or third SWACUHO RA, and you're like, man, I was looking forward to going to A&M, seeing my friends from last year that I met at SWACUHO, but obviously that can't happen right now. And so I think right now what this quote says to me that we have to choose our attitude, and we really have to have a positive mindset about this. SWACUHO RA has always been good. SWACUHO RA will be good. SWACUHO RA will be great this year. Not only because Jen Summers is on the team, but it's going to be great. So so keep this in mind as you are progressing over any of the presentations that you are listening to over the series of Swikuho RA. So it's just we're still doing the same great content. It's just going to be in a different format. Okay, so before we really get into talking to like, I have some tips for you when it comes to being in a virtual experience and making the most out of that. I want to break down what digital and virtual engagement actually is, because I hear those words floating around quite a bit, but they're really very different things, honestly. So on the far left over here, you see digital engagement really just concerns the medium of how the content is delivered. So Zoom, digital engagement; Instagram Live, digital engagement; Microsoft Teams, digital engagement; Twitter, digital engagement. And that's it. It is a passive way to get content delivered to another person. That's it. Now, what you do with that medium determines if it's going to be digital or virtual. So, if you want your engagement to be actual the qualifies virtual engagement, it has to be immersive and interactive, and it has to occur in the online world. It is important to note that digital engagement and virtual engagement, it is important to note that all virtual engagement is digital, but not all digital engagement is virtual. So if you just throw something up on a Zoom or on Instagram Live and you're not interacting with people, then it's digital. And there's nothing wrong with that, just like there's nothing wrong with passive programming. It's a great way to get information across. But if you're wanting to call something engaging, that would fall under virtual, and it needs to be where you're interacting with someone. So you as a facilitator are interacting with your students, the students are interacting with each other, and maybe even your students are assisting you in leading those virtual experiences. So kind of keep that in mind from this point forward as you're working with the students who live in your buildings, who live in your halls. And as you're wanting to engage them, are you wanting to actually be engagement, or are you just wanting it to be passive? And really, this kind of boils down to when you're creating like programming and things like that. So, do you want your students to be content consumers or content participants? So the consumers, they're just going to sit, watch, and observe. But the participants are going to watch, engage, actively participate, lead, take notes, and spread their new learning. So, my challenge is for you as you are moving through your Swikuho RA experience. My challenge is that you are content participants. I know that everything is online now. You spend all day in class. You have staff meeting online. You have one-on-ones online. You FaceTime with your friends back home online. I get it. But when you are here in this space, be a content participant. Put the phone away. Mute the emails or whatever else is coming in on your devices, and actually be here for the time that you signed up for. While the conference is free, like, yes, it is free, there are people who have taken time out of their days to actually come present to you. There are people taking time out of other days to actually sit on Zoom. The A&M team, the conference team are sitting on here, they're moderating, they're making sure that we're working out tech issues and things like that. So please be content participants instead of content consumers. Whoops, back up one. Okay, so now I have 11 tips for you making your virtual conference experience, or making the most out of your conference experience. But before we go into the tips, Jen, let's do the second poll. I want to find out who's in the room. I always like knowing who I'm talking to. So if you can fill out this poll for me. Looks like we're waiting on a few more to come in. Okay, we can go ahead and end it. So not a big surprise here. Most of you are RAs who are on the screen with us, so that's good to know because that's where this presentation is very much geared. But I do want to acknowledge that we do have a one hall council or RHA member here. Sometimes you do have some our leadership people here, so that's always good to know. And then we have some advisors, our grads and pro staff, and then of course our lovely host committee. Cool, that is awesome. All right. So tip 1, take notes. I put this first because I want you to take notes. So if you don't have, if you're not already taking notes, open up a Word document, open up the notes section on your phone, pull out a notebook from class, whatever. Find something to take notes on. And if you have the gift of memory, feel free to, I guess, record this in your brain because I do not. If I don't write it down, it's not going to happen. So when you're taking notes, like it's really easy for me to sit up here and say, hey, take notes. Cool. Well, what should be in it? So you always want to write down the presenter's name and contact information and the title of the presentation. I always like to also write down the date and the conference of where I attended this presentation, because sometimes it might be like a year or two later when I reach out to them and say, hey, Jen, I remember when you did this presentation over XYZ. Would you still happen to have that? You know, I took some really good notes on that, and I'm wanting to use that as a reference to something I'm doing now. And so that also kind of helps the presenter know, like, okay, like I did this at SWACUHO RA 2020, so that's where it should be somewhere in my files. Make sure you document things that you find interesting about the presentation. You definitely want to document any new learning you have, and then also write down any things that you have questions about. And then follow up on those questions. If you don't get to ask your questions at the end of the presentation, email that person or find them on social media and say, hey, I have a few questions about that presentation. Don't let your questions go unanswered. All right, tip 2. Should I have my camera on or should I have my camera off? The answer is both. When you have your camera on, it lets the presenter know that you are engaging. There is nothing worse than doing a Zoom presentation and seeing a whole bunch of black screens. And so like, it's kind of like, okay, am I talking to a lot of empty rooms? Or are people like actually playing their PlayStation and just have me on in the background? Like, am I talking to myself here? So make sure that you have your camera on, you're smiling, you're looking great, and you're actually engaging, you're doing the head nods and things like that. If you have a messy background, guess what? You can use a filter. Like I have a filter on my screen right now. My background isn't messy, but I do have a filter because I just love filters. And also the conference team did a really good job with these filters, y'all. But if you're like, man, I don't have time to clean, it's been a rough week, throw a filter up there. And the filter can really be any picture as long as it's appropriate. Also, when your camera is on, it forces you to pay attention more to the presentation instead of doing other things. I know when I'm on virtual meetings, I am less tempted to do like this because I'm here and I don't want to be rude to whoever's facilitating the meeting. And so I really like to be looking at them like I would be looking at them if they were here in front of me. And then also be sure to follow the general Zoom etiquette. You all know this by now. You've been in virtual classes and stuff like this. So when you're not talking, mute, and using the chat features and the other different functions, which we'll talk about later. So when should you have your cameras off? If you need to go to the restroom, please, dear God, turn your camera off. I have been on the unfortunate side of hearing one of my coworkers use the restroom. They luckily had their camera off, but they did not have their microphone off. So if for some reason we are taking a field trip with you to the restroom, please turn that camera off. Please turn that microphone off. I honestly would recommend leaving us in the other room just in case. I know you may not want to miss what is happening in the presentation, but better safe than sorry. If you know that you have a distracting environment behind you, go ahead and keep that camera off. For example, if you know that that you're going to be in your on-campus Starbucks or you're going to be out somewhere else, but you are still hopping on to engage in this, but there's a lot happening behind you, go ahead and turn that camera off so that it's not distracting the presenter. I know like I'm that type of person where like if I see a shiny object, I'm like over here instead of right here where I need to be. If you need to step away or have a side conversation, turn that camera off as well, so that we're not seeing what's happening again, not distracting others from engaging. And then, as I already said, keep your mic off at all time unless you have been called to speak on or you're having a group discussion. So if you're in a breakout room or something like that, then that's more okay, versus just having it on. Because again, like sometimes like you forget that it's on, and then you may have shared confidential information over a platform that you shouldn't have. Tip 3, make sure you read the session description before attending the session, so that you make sure it's the right one that you want to go to. Make sure it's what you are interested in and things like that. So make sure that you are reading those session descriptions. Tip 4, make a KWL chart for each session. How many of you, I can't really see you, so I guess you don't actually have to answer. How many of you actually know what a KWL chart? I may be showing my age here, but it's something that we did when I was in elementary school, typically about after having a lesson or reading a book or something. But a KWL chart is a way to collect information about a topic. If you Google KWL chart, this is like the image on the right will be one of the first ones to come up. It's a fillable PDF. So the first column talks about what you already know about the topic. So if I gave you a topic, let's say, I don't know, dogs. What do you know about dogs? And then you can write everything you knew about that about dogs in that first column. In the middle column, write everything you want to know about dogs. So like, what is there something you want to know about dogs? Should I brush my dog's teeth? How often should I bathe my dog? What is an appropriate weight for a dog? Whatever, things that I want to know. And then in the last column is what you have learned. So like if I'm giving you a presentation on dogs, you filled out the first two columns, and then after I've given my presentation, you wrote down everything you learned from me in the third column on what you learned. And so I recommend filling out the first two columns prior to the session, and then the last column immediately after. And then, as you can see, someone's already interacting on the screen, and they want to know how to train a dog. I have not been super successful in that. My dog is 4. He doesn't use the bathroom in the house. That's good, but he is very high energy. All right. Give me 1 second here. Gonna just erase that from the screen. Okay, so tip 5, interact in the chat and on social media. So in the chat, use the emojis that Zoom provides. Also use Zoom reactions such as the clap, the thumbs up, things like that. Percent size in the chat equals snap. So if you really agree with something the presenter is saying or someone else is in the chat, you can do percent size. It doesn't matter how many you do. The more you do typically means the more you're snapping towards that comment. If you have questions, using an X is a good thing. It alerts the moderator or the presenter that you have comments or questions, and it kind of brings attention to the chat when needed. And if you want to start a new topic in the chat, just kind of draw a line so that there is a break in the chat. And then in the chat, you can also state if you really agree with something or if something really resonates with you. That really lets the presenter and the others know that you are engaged, that you are really enjoying the information and the content that is being provided. And then on social media, take pictures. Take selfies if you're sitting in your room by yourself, or if you are with a delegation, take some selfies, post it on social media, tag SWCUHO social media. I'm not sure if we have a hashtag for SWCUHO already this year. It looks like we do. I think Jen is nodding, so she can throw that in the chat. But make sure you're tagging us on that so that we can see what you're doing on your campuses while you are virtually attending SWACUHA RA. If you have department social media, be sure to tag them as well so that they know that you are getting your professional development on. Quote presenters, feel free to like quote them. Just make sure you give them credit when you are posting on social media. Again, use social media hashtags. And for some reason, I put take pictures on there twice. Must have been important when I was writing this. So take pictures twice. Tip 6 is going to be the network. Network. I can't tell you how important networking is. Make sure you exchange contact information, email, social media, phone numbers, etc. Whatever you all are using these days. I know TikTok is the new thing and Instagram is the big thing right now. And so exchange those handles and stay in contact with each other. I know this may be harder for your introverted people, but force yourself to have a conversation with someone you don't already know. I try to challenge myself to do that. I'm an extrovert by nature, but I try to challenge myself to do that at least once a day when I'm at a conference. Like having a conversation with someone I don't know could lead to a job in 3 to 5 years or more. It could lead to a mentorship opportunity. You never know what it's going to lead to. It really is. The older I get, I see that it really is all about who you know. That's what opens up the doors to opportunities, such as this opportunity today. You were supposed to hear from our lovely SWACUHA president, but unfortunately she was not able to do this presentation. And so she reached out to me, and that was really cool that she thought about me. And if I didn't know Maggie, there would have been no way she would have reached out to me because she wouldn't know me. Actually, my current job at Oklahoma State, just by knowing one of my supervisors, that's how I got that job. I wouldn't have never known about it. I wouldn't have never been convinced to go there if she wasn't there. Again, it's all about who you know. So network. So we are going to take a networking break right now, and we're going to go into breakout rooms. So what you're going to do, you're going to introduce yourself to your group. So make sure you go around and give everyone a chance to introduce themselves. So your name, pronouns, institution, and your position, whatever your position is. And then I want you all to play an icebreaker called Connection. So after you introduce yourself, I want someone whoever wants to start telling things about yourself. When someone else in the group finds a connection, you will scream out connection, and then that person will start talking about themselves. And we'll keep doing that over and over until you keep finding connections. So for example, let's say that I have a dog, I play the guitar, I run 5 miles every day. And let's say that Jen was like, ooh, I run 5 miles every day too, connection. And then Jen would start talking about herself. Makes sense? If not, ask me in the chat. But Jen is gonna take you into breakout rooms right now.
Yes, I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I had a question about our names here in Zoom. Is there like a standard or like some way we put them?
There is not a standard, at least that I have. I don't know if the host committee has one. No, so not a standard. So you put whatever you want. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation real quick and finish that up. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed the networking activity. I hope that you maybe made some connections in that, and maybe you will follow up on some of those. Okay. Oops. All right. So tip 7 that I have, I say conference in groups. And someone may be like, sir, are you not aware that we are in the COVID pandemic? I am very much aware. But what I will say, like, number one, make sure that you are following your university or departmental policies, whatever those may be, when it comes to COVID, if you choose to do this. But over the past couple of weeks, I have attended several virtual conferences with my students that I advise, and we normally have been doing them in person. And our conference room spaces because we have larger conference room spaces that we can do that in. And so it is a lot more pleasant doing virtual conference experiences with a group of people versus just sitting by yourself in a room. So if you are allowed to find a space, make sure you physical distance, make sure you're always wearing masks when you're in the same space together. But make sure, but if you can do conference together, do it. If you can't, then you can't. But again, make sure you bring your laptops, make sure you bring your headphones so that everyone's hearing on their devices, or if it's all the same presentation, throw it up on the big screen. But it is a way to still be in community without being as close in proximity as you normally would. Tip 8, be aware of tech issues that may occur. I think we all know that things are going to happen, right? And so you have to be aware and be prepared for those. So think about things like, what if you lose Wi-Fi? Can you maybe hop on your phone if you have data or unlimited data? Is that something you can do? What happens is if your device malfunctions, do you have a backup? One tip that I would definitely give you, I know a lot of people just love using Wi-Fi, but if you can, use the Hardwire when you're on these presentations so that you don't lose connectivity. Your Wi-Fi is like a lot more likely to go out than it is when you're plugged directly into the wall, into the Ethernet port. So you always want to have a backup plan. So my backup plan, for example, is my laptop right here. That if my current device that I'm presenting on were to go down, I would just immediately switch over to that, and we would keep rolling. But it's charged and ready to go if that were to happen. Or if I were to lose Wi-Fi in my house right now, then I would just turn on my hotspot so that we can keep rolling with the presentation. So what happens if the presenter has tech issues? Remember, you need to give grace and have patience. So like I think Jen was a perfect example earlier. She froze for a second, no one freaked out. She hopped right back on. We kept rolling. It's going to happen. People are gonna freeze. Wi-Fi's gonna get glitchy for a minute and be fine. But give grace. It's not that the presenter is not prepared. It's not that where they are doesn't have great technology. Things just happen. And so we just have to be prepared and have some patience and grant some grace. 2020 is all about giving grace. So make sure you have some when you're at your virtual conference. Tip 9, your environment is everything. It will help make your conference. So again, if you can do it with other people, great, do it with other people. But again, make sure, if you can, clean your environment. It helps you engage more instead of being like, oh, okay, what's in this pile over here? Oh, if you're a person who can't focus unless your space is clean, you're going to be thinking about all the things that are around you that need to be clean. So make sure you're clean, make sure it's well organized, and make sure you have all the things that you need directly around you so that you don't have to get up and walk away. Be aware of multitasking. So again, don't have unrelated tabs open or items open on your devices. So such as Facebook, Twitter, email. It's one of the most annoying things to be at a virtual presentation and hearing the dinging of someone's email continuously going off, especially if you're the presenter. So close all those things out. The emails can wait, the text messages can wait. Respond to those later. Be engaged, be here. Be comfortable. So no need for you to wear that prom dress, wear the slacks, or not the slacks, wear the sweats, wear the athletic shorts, whatever you want to wear. Just be comfortable as long as you are presentable. Have snacks and beverages nearby. I got my water right here. But if you know that it's going to be a longer day, have some snacks or something nearby. And also take breaks as needed. So that's when you would turn your camera off, make sure your speaker's off. If you need to get up, stretch, do a few different yoga poses real quick, do what you need to do while the learning keeps going. And then tip 10, be mindful of your energy. You can radiate energy into the rest of the virtual platform if you are putting off negative energy into the atmosphere. Oprah said it best, you are responsible for the energy that you bring into this space. So if you come in this space with a negative attitude because maybe your department is making you go or ask you to attend, then guess what? This is going to be a very negative experience for you, and you're probably going to make it a very negative experience for someone else. So bring in positive energy. You're going to get positive energy and positive things in return. Um, and then as I already talked about positivity, but choose your attitude. I know that, like, for example, this has been a long wait for everyone, but I'm still choosing a positive attitude because I want you all to have a positive conference experience. So as your presenter right now, I don't want to be negative or anything else that is going on in my life right now. I want to make sure that I'm radiating positivity, and I'm hoping that's coming through. So make sure every time you log onto this virtual space for the next couple of weeks, when you're logging onto SWCUHO, choose your attitude, choose a positive attitude. And then my last and final tip is have fun. This is a conference that you're going to remember for a lifetime. As you saw the pictures on my slide a little bit ago, you're gonna make friends. You're gonna have fun, things like that. Make sure you take some pictures and things like that. You never know. In about 10 years, you might be the person sitting in the seat telling someone how to have the best conference experience. Never know. If you would have told me that I would have been doing this, like in 2010, if someone would have came up to me at SWCUHO RA and said, like, hey, you're going to be the person giving this presentation in 2020, and 10 years exactly from that time of the year, I would have laughed at you. But here we are. And so you never know what's going to happen. So, but have fun and enjoy. You're going to make a lifetime full of memories. So some other important tips, but not part of my top 11 tips for the conference, is to, one, fill out the conference evaluations. I'm sure there are going to be some type of evaluations of some form. Fill them out, be honest. You are helping the future planning teams, whoever's going to be planning the next SWCUHO RA. As someone who has hosted my fair share of conferences, it is very, very important to us when we get those conference evals to be like, okay, so what did they like? So we want to be sure to keep that. And what didn't they like? We want to do something different and make sure we are meeting the needs of the people who are attending our conference. Also, if you are helping the presenters get better, so as your fellow RAs and other people who are going to be speaking over the next few weeks, no one's perfect, even myself. So you're going to help these people get better. So make sure you're giving them some honest feedback, but be kind at the same time. And then lastly, bring your learning back to campus. So not all of you may have been able to attend this SWCUHO RA. Some of your peers may be in classes or doing other things. So figure out a way to bring it back to your peers on campus. Whether it's you present a program in your building or to your staff, you publish within the departmental or hall newsletters, you give updates in staff meeting each week after you attend SWCUHO RA. You start thinking of ideas to when you're planning to present at SWCUHO RA 2021. You all should be planning to present at SWCUHO RA 2021 if you're going to still be an RA next year. And again, like I said already twice in this presentation, take pictures. You want to document those memories and share those out to your peers. So I started with a quote. I had a quote a bit ago, and I'm going to end with a quote. When a caterpillar bursts from its cocoon and discovers it has wings, it does not sit idly, hoping one day to turn back, it flies. So I'm encouraging you. I know that we are in a pandemic right now, but I'm encouraging you to fly forward. Maybe one day we will have SWCUHO RA again in person. I hope that we do. But we can't dwell on the past. We have to move forward. A&M has prepared, their conference team has prepared a really dynamic conference for you all, and it's going to be great. So if you open your minds, if you open your hearts, you will learn something. You're going to get something out of it, and it is going to change you for the better. And that is all I have, friends. My contact information is there if you want to look me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. My email address is at the bottom of the page there, so feel free to connect with me on any of that. You may have to send me a message and say, "Hey, I was on your presentation at SWCUHO RA because I can't really see most of you right now." But I will definitely welcome any of that. And then if we have any times, I will turn it over to Jen, our moderator, for any questions that you all may have.